I'm doing great, guys, and thanks for having me on. But more importantly, thanks for being here. And what you're doing here today is really giving the people an opportunity to get to know the people who are on the ballot.
Welcome to So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's podcast discussing Western Mass news. My name is Dennis Hackett.
And I'm Ryan Feyre.
And I'm Tyler Garnett.
And we'll be your hosts for today's episode. On this week's episode, we are back on site at the Sheriff's Picnic, interviewing local and state officials ahead of election season. Kind of speaking of officials, on our last episode, we sat down with State Senator John Vilas as well, and what I think was kind of one of our best episodes. So I definitely think anybody listening should take a listen to that one after this one.
Yeah.
But before we move along here, Ryan and Tyler, this is the first time I think the three of us have all been on the podcast like this in a while. So what's new with you guys?
Nothing much. Not much has changed since the Vilas episode last week on
Yeah.
my end. But it was nice. I kind of alluded to this last week. It was nice to have a weekend in Western Mass to chill. I did go to a Yard Goats game.
Nice.
Probably one of the most entertaining AA games I've been to. Can't lie. It was very back and forth. Got to see the guy that was part of the Tarek Skubal trade. So
Nice.
yeah, it was a good time. Nice weather and had some mac and cheese.
Nice.
So a good time. But what's up? What's been up with you guys?
I feel like so busy lately. It's just like one thing after another. I was joking with Sarah in the office yesterday that I've gotten to the point where it's like I have to plan things out like weeks in advance.
Yep.
But other than that, in my downtime, I'm slowly working my way through the MCU ahead of Doomsday and everything. I just watched Captain America: Winter Soldier last night. Incredible movie.
It is.
That's a great one. Yeah.
I just get floored every time I watch the Captain Americas, because when I was growing up, I always liked the Iron Man ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, these Captain America movies are so good.
Yeah,
too.
it's not fair how good that trilogy
Yeah.
is because of all the great movies they have.
And it's just like one of those things where I'm at the point where it's movies that I've watched once maybe.
Yeah.
So seeing them again has been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything's been going pretty well with me. I feel like, Dennis, I've been super busy. I just got back from Montana a couple days ago. I kind of talked about it briefly on last week's trip, but had a fun time over there. It was hard to get back on the plane to come back here because of how beautiful it was over there. We had 4 jam-packed days of horseback riding, whitewater rafting, going to a rodeo, seeing Yellowstone, and it was a beautiful time. And I think looking at the calendar for my next few weekends, I'm traveling somewhere else every weekend, so I'll definitely be busy. But it's good. It's good to stay busy, especially as the summer kind of winds down a little bit.
Yeah. No, 100%. And it's funny, you're talking, Dennis, about the superhero stuff. I actually did watch the first episode of Lanterns.
Oh, I did too, yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think? I actually liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean,
lie.
it's so funny because I just started watching Friday Night Lights, so I'm getting the double dose of Kyle Chandler, but I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, no, 100%. Him and Aaron Pierre, they definitely got good chemistry. I know it's like it's very grounded. I've heard comic people are like, oh, like some aren't happy with that, but I do like that approach.
And
to
that
this.
twist at the end too.
Oh yes, yes.
Somebody predicted it. I saw it like a week or two ago, and I was like, I was so annoyed that was correct. But
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's one of those shows I think I'm gonna watch. Like as it comes out, I'm gonna watch each week, which is something I don't usually do often with shows, but. I was impressed.
I mentioned this to you, I think, on Friday, but I love that it's the Sunday night HBO time slot. I feel like that's just such an iconic time slot for HBO. Where it was Game of Thrones for years.
Yes.
House of the Dragon now. I think Night of the Seven Kingdoms too. Like whenever they have a real banger show, it's always that Sunday night time slot. So.
Yeah, and you almost forget it's Monday morning soon.
I know.
Yeah. Any ways to avoid the Sunday scaries?
The Sunday scaries. Yeah. Have you watched it, Tyler?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Definitely recommend.
I got a lot of other shows I'm kind of watching right now, but maybe I'll get to it, especially with these good reviews so far from you guys.
Yeah. Put it on the long list.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like a crime, almost like a crime drama.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
yeah, I like. I've seen the trailers and stuff for it, so I think I'd be interested in it.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, with that, I think we can move along to some of the news in the area. A couple of things I just wanted to quickly touch on because I know this is going to be a longer episode with probably quite a few interviews. But over in my coverage area in Springfield, I'm sure many people have heard about the decimation at the Forest Park Zoo after the big macro burst a couple weekends ago.
Yeah.
They're still kind of looking at the damages, but no animals or people were harmed, thankfully. But trees did fall down in a couple of the enclosures, so I just wanted to shout that out. Sarah did a story on that. You can find on the reminder.com, of course, and in your Springfield and East Longmeadow editions. And then going over to East Longmeadow has hired its, not hired, but East Longmeadow's new superintendent, Dr. Joanne Menard, is getting ready for, the beginning of the school year after she was hired in January. So it's kind of a little bit of the newness in East Longmeadow. And then they also have the new high school as well, which I believe just finished construction. So a lot of new things to look forward to in school for East Longmeadow. But I think that's pretty much it from our area. Just a couple of points. And you can obviously check that up. You can obviously check that story out on the reminder.com as well.
Yeah. And then on our end, Cliff Clark, our colleague Cliff Clark, has been following. He just reported on a new report that came out about a January 2024 plane crash that occurred near Layton that killed all three on board. And the National Transportation Safety Board just came out with a report that said that it was determined that the flight instructor's failure to maintain airplane control during a stall, which resulted in an inadvertent spin from which the airplane was not recovered, contributing to the accident, were the overall effect of the flight instructor's use of multiple central nervous system depressants, the associated underlying conditions they treated, or both. So pretty harrowing report that just came out. One of the people that died on board was a Southwick resident. So you can check that story out on thereminder.com. That's also in this week's Penny Saver as well. And then the other thing that happened on my end, my team's end, was the Fort Meadow updates. So obviously Fort Meadow Elementary closed a couple years ago, and now the city is putting it out to bid, and they're looking to basically build something else there. They're still in that process right now. They had a walkthrough last week where Mayor Michael McCabe and other officials and former students of the school were there. So Amy Porter, our colleague, reported on that, and that's also on the reminder.com and also in this week's Penny Saver. So check all that out.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, we're going to get on to our first interview here. So we'll be back with that after a quick break.
We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news.
Hey sports fans, those incredible action shots you've been seeing in Reminder Publishing's papers? Well, now you can take them home. Reminder Printworks is making your favorite local sports photos available for purchase. The big plays, the big wins, the moments you'll never want to forget. Whether it's your kid's game-winning goal or a hometown champion lifting the trophy, those memories deserve a place on your wall. It's easy to get into the action. Just visit popqr.news/photos and find the shot that means the most to you. Don't let the great memories fade. Get in the game today with Reminder Printworks.
And we're here with Hampden County Sheriff Nick Cocchi. How you doing, Sheriff? How's it going?
I'm doing great, guys, and thanks for having me on. But more importantly, thanks for being here. And what you're doing here today is really giving the people an opportunity to get to know the people who are on the ballot. Yeah. And hey, they got to make informed, good decisions, because in today's climate and in today's society, we got issues, and we got issues out here in Western Massachusetts that we want to be heard on, all the way out on Beacon Hill. And we're, contrary to what some people believe, Western Mass does not end in Worcester. It starts in Worcester, and then you got Hampden, Hampshire, Franklin, and the Berkshires. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, and to that point, Sheriff Cocchi, what does it mean to have an event like this where you are bringing so many delegates, so many counselors, school committee members, whoever, together in this one event, from all over the state. Today, how does it feel that event?
Well, what I think today means and what it means to me, and I'll be very bluntly honest, the day I think everyone's here for Nick Cocchi, I might as well retire. And I'm not ready to retire. People are here because of the work that the men and women at the sheriff's office do, the contributions that we make on a daily basis to the community, to the schools, to the youth, what we do for the incarcerated individuals and working hard to stabilize their mental health and their substance use issues and help create job opportunities so they can go back to the community and they can, be productive citizens and get it right because they come to us because they weren't following society's rules. So we hold people accountable. We run the institution, but we also want to be empathetic and compassionate to show people that, hey, there could be a better tomorrow if you do the right thing. So today's event is about bringing Western Massachusetts together, not just Hampden County. It's about bringing the electeds out here to hear what our concerns are. And ultimately, at the end of the day, as we probably tally up over 1,500 to maybe 1,600 people who have come through the doors throughout the day, that's their way of saying thank you, not to Nick Cocchi, but to the sheriff's office for the contributions we make. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very, very proud of my staff.
Definitely, and one thing we wanted to bring up was something that happened earlier this year was with the department having to end some partnerships with multiple municipalities due to a loss of $26.5 million that were cut from the department's allocation from the state. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit if and how some of these cuts have affected some surrounding communities.
Well, I think that's a great question, and there's no easy answer other than to tell you it has affected surrounding communities. I had to stop my regional lockups for over a month, and that put some of these police departments in peril because the best place for these prisoners to be held overnight or to be held over a long weekend is at a place where we have 24/7 medical, mental health, and substance use care. And we just couldn't afford it. And we reinstituted it because it was the right thing to do. We're communicating with the administration. We're communicating with the legislature on how we're going to fix this deficit-funded pattern, because that's really what it is. We're not overspending. We tell them what it costs to run the place, and they give us a dollar amount. But that dollar amount doesn't carry us 12 months. So either they want us to close doors and shut down services, or they got to pay us. And I think that's what the Office of Inspector General's report showed was, hey, there's ownership on this shortfall in funding on all sides. And the remedy is not to point fingers. It's not to abolish services. It's about getting a realistic number to sheriffs that we can operate our facilities with and then tell us stay within it. And they would have our full support in doing that. But it's got to be realistic, and it can't be gutting, because public safety needs are the number one issues in any election. Public safety always comes first. So you can't take public safety and put it in a vacuum and just pray and cross your fingers that people feel safe walking out at night. People want to go to the parks. People want to be on the waterways. That's where we were helping in contributing to the municipalities around Hampden County. And I do feel very confident that with some time and some conversations that we'll get back to providing the full services that not I want to provide, that the community has asked us to provide and perform. So that's a great question. I'm very optimistic, but we don't have a solution yet.
Yeah. Well, at the time, Sheriff Cocchi, I remember it was announced that this was like a first phase of reductions to save money. Do you envision that another phase would come, or is right now just kind of working with the legislature?
We at the Sheriff's Office, with my financial team, have done a great job of cutting as much as we could in phase one to avoid a phase two. We have a phase two planned. That would be operationally devastating for what we do every day inside the facility. We cut a lot of the outside stuff out, and we've heard about it from the communities. But we've recouped about $5.7 million, and we're doing our part. Now I'm calling upon the legislature to do theirs and fund us to get the rest of the work done.
Gotcha. And another question we have is really more for the listeners a little bit too. We were wondering if there's any scams or upticks in trends that you and your department would like the community to be cautious about.
There are, and there are people in our community, in our backyard, that are losing tens of thousands of dollars. If you get a call, and for some reason around the country, people use the sheriff's office as a conduit to swindle and scam people. They'll say a deputy's calling, they missed their jury duty date, or they have a warrant for their arrest, and people just don't know if they missed it or they didn't get it, and they panic and they pay. I can assure you of this to all the listeners. There is not a sheriff's office in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that would ask you to Venmo them or cryptocurrency them any amount of money. That is a scam, and it's catching a lot of people, and people are losing a lot of money. And once that money goes into that ATM machine and it goes away, you can't get it back because somebody has to be paid. So I ask people, if you have any issues or you think you could be being scammed or you just don't understand why there's a warrant out for you or why you missed jury duty and you're going to go to jail, pick the phone up, call our office, and we'll tell you it's a scam and to just delete the message, because we're going to do our homework. We're not going to just blindly tell you. We're going to go back in the system, we're going to look, and then we're going to give you good advice, and 99.9% of the time, it's a scam.
Sheriff Cocchi, that's all the questions we had on our end. Is there anything else you'd like to add at all?
No, I'd just like to say to the people listening, it's been one of the biggest privileges of my life to be the sheriff of Hampden County. Besides being a father and a husband and a son, I don't know if I've ever had a position that I felt more honored to hold. And I appreciate the support that the community's given, not just me as the sheriff, but to all my staff. And I really look forward, I got 2 more years left on this term, but there's no secret. I'm teeing it up for another term. And in 2 years, I'll be on the ballot. And I'm looking for everybody's support because we want to continue to do the work we do. We're not done doing the great work that we need to do for our community. Thank you, guys. Great job.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
While Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey did not sit down with Reminder Publishing, she did have media availability, and we were there to capture some of the audio. Here's some of what she had to say.
It's really important that we have transparency about how people's taxpayer dollars are being spent. My agencies get audited, and the legislature should be as well. So I continue to urge the legislature to get on with it, and also for everybody to just dial down the rhetoric and just get it done. I want to focus every day on how am I helping people in their lives right now, and that's building more homes to drive down housing costs, going after utilities to lower gas and electric bills, and trying to make healthcare more accessible and affordable for people in the state.
Are you looking to visit or talk to Liz Ogilvie, who is not eating until you help her get that budget?
I talked to her over the weekend. I continue to talk to Liz. Look, the situation is this with what's happening in the food program right now. The federal government, the Trump administration, has made massive cuts, as they've also made huge cuts to health care. I am going to find and advocate in every which way, continue to work directly with the legislature to try to find more funding for caseworkers. I actually asked the legislature for more funding a while ago. They didn't give it to me. I'm going to go back again and also find ways to work with community-based organizations to feed people in the state. I don't want anybody to go hungry in Massachusetts. And it's really hard what we're dealing with the terrible cuts by the Trump administration. But we just got to find our way through this. And I'm committed to working with all partners, including the legislature, to get funding for caseworkers so that we can make sure people's applications are getting cracked.
You told her they need a special session. So how is that moving along to get a special session to get that funding?
I don't know that I said that to her, but I don't think we've got I'll be filing a supplemental budget. So, that's something that, I'm going to continue to work with legislative leadership on. And I'm sure that Liz and other advocates will as well.
Governor, last month, a lot of community members have DFW.
Yeah.
Right? And your administration is weighing in as well. Talk a little bit about what sparked that.
Look, for the very first time I ran for office back when I was running for Attorney General, I spent a lot of time in the Quabbin region. And, I've always felt like the Quabbin communities have given so much to the state. The eastern part of Massachusetts would not have clean drinking water were it not for the sacrifice and the commitment and the good stewardship of the Quabbin communities. So that's why, I said we've got to do a few things. One, I set up a commission to look at this. Second, I've asked the MWRA to contribute money to the towns, $50,000 every year while we work through this. I think that the Quabbin should have representation on the MWRA, and that, goes along with the other commitments that I've made to Western Mass. More investment, more regional equity, more geographical equity, the pilot commission, right? The looking at, how we do that, looking at how we fund our schools. So, I'm a big fan of Western Mass. It's a matter of fairness. And when it comes to the Quabbin in particular, it's a matter of fairness to the Quabbin communities who, as I say, we're not for them. We wouldn't have clean drinking water in eastern Massachusetts.
So, Governor, more than a third of families in Massachusetts can't afford a $400 emergency expense. The Boston Globe reported on that this morning. Do you have any, how are you addressing that?
This is why, look, the first thing I did as governor was I cut taxes. Okay, people may not remember that, but I did that in my first year. And a lot of that went to middle income and lower income folks, helping families with kids, helping seniors and the like. I have been focused on affordability every single day. I know people don't have money to play with. They don't have savings. Everything has gotten more expensive. And with the Trump administration driving our economy off a cliff, whether it's, tariffs or inflation or cuts to healthcare, right? I know that as governor, I'm focused on every day, how can I lower people's costs? This is why we got to build homes. I got 100,000 homes built the last 3.5 years because of the changes that I made and the housing bill that I got passed. Driving down gas and electric bills, driving down the cost of healthcare. We've got to continue to focus on making life more affordable for people because, right now people in Massachusetts, people around the country, can't have, gas, rent, groceries, a dinner out, clothes for their kids, back to school. And that's why every day I'm focused on how do we lower costs for people in Massachusetts.
Yep. Okay, one more last one. Brendan, you want to go? Can you touch upon, if you were reelected as governor, what efforts would you recommit to solving the CSO problems at the moment?
Oh, huge. Look, this is why, having a federal partner really matters. When, Biden was president, I brought $9 billion back to the state. We actually put it into infrastructure, and important repairs that needed to be made. Trump's taken all that away from states generally around the country, and that's too bad. But we got to look to leverage every single tax dollar that we have. I don't want to see... I'm proud right now that Massachusetts, we were ranked the state with the cleanest water supply, actually. We have some of the cleanest air in the country, but we have work to do. It's unacceptable that we have CSOs that haven't been repaired for decades, or things haven't been done to make sure that we're keeping pollution, out of the water. And so, I'm going to continue to advocate for that. I filed a bill. Actually, the Mass Ready Act is a really important bill that I'm wanting to get to my desk because with that, it frees up funding that we can actually put into resilience projects like, repair and restoration of CSOs. Because I don't want to see any of that pollution floating into anybody's river or waterway. We got to stop that, and I need that bill on my desk.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, we are here with State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. Diana, before we get into the interview, do you mind just telling us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, I'm just enjoying the purple rain behind me, and I'm kind of tempted to leave this interview right now and go up to the stage and just start singing and, get everyone really having a good time here. But my name is Diana DiZoglio. I am the state auditor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and this is one of my favorite events of the year. Sheriff Cocchi does a great job of bringing people together. We have different local select board members here, school committee members here, state officials like myself coming out, having an opportunity to connect with people in the media, everyday residents, and get to share in a really fun day, but also learn about what's going on and get up to speed about local happenings and state happenings. So as you can see, I'm here not just to attend the picnic and show support, but I am also wearing my 72% t-shirt today in support of the audit law that was passed by 72% of voters across this Commonwealth, a law that is currently being overturned by our legislature. Unfortunately, some of our legislators voted to overturn this law. It is in conference committee right now, and it's my understanding that the legislature is seeking to work on this bill and send it to the governor's desk to overturn the audit law and to also overturn the upcoming ballot question for the public records law, where we are seeking to pass question 1 on the ballot again that would subject the governor's office and the legislature to the public records law that the rest of us have to follow and actually think we should have to follow. The sheriffs that are here today, every city councilor, every select board member, every single municipal official and state official, we all follow the public records laws, but the legislature and governor's office exempt themselves from the same laws. And this allows for financial receipts to be hidden from the general public, the taxpayers. It allows for state contracts to be hidden from the general public. And look, we're just advocating for the taxpayers to be able to see the records that they pay for. And the idea behind this next ballot question was that, they might be able to block me and my office, but they can't block all of us. So we said, if they're going to ignore the 72% voter mandated audit and try to get out of the audit that you voted for, we're going to pass another law that makes those records that we've been trying to get access to available directly to all of you. So you don't even need the auditor's office to be able to get access. You can just get them yourselves. But it appears as though the legislature has been planning for quite a while to do this. And what they just did a few weeks ago is they went in and they voted not just to overturn the audit law, but they voted to also preemptively pass a bill nullifying the upcoming ballot question. And that's really concerning, not just because of the transparency and accountability that voters deserve and that these bills bring, but it goes beyond just an audit and the public records law at this point. If our legislature and governor are going to be willing to sign into law, pass bills into law that completely nullify our ballot questions that we're in the process of passing them, every time they disagree with the voters, that actually takes away our constitutional protections as the people. The Constitution is there to protect the people, not the politicians. And that ballot process is in place to actually make sure that the people are protected from government tyranny. And when you have a legislative body that says, oh, well, that's not really what we're doing and you all just don't understand, not only is it dismissive of the voters and patronizing to the voters who very much know what they're going to vote for, but it also is anti-democratic. And we have a democratic system of checks and balances where the people have a check on the legislature. And those ballot questions are, when they pass, they become law. They're not just a recommendation. So for the legislature to just be overturning these laws, it's a really scary place that we're finding ourselves in Massachusetts where, look, we constantly hear about the threats to the democracy at the federal level, and I believe that to be true. I do think that democracy is under attack across our nation at the federal level, of course, but it's also under attack here in Massachusetts in our own state government, and it's not being talked about enough. We the people have rights. Our rights are being violated. The law is being broken by the lawmakers. And look, it's a challenging conversation to have because a lot of us are friends with a lot of our elected officials, right? So when you bring this up, it can be viewed as a personal attack, but it's not personal. It's just this is what we voted for, and we want our lawmakers to follow the law.
How difficult has all these obstacles kind of made your job, and how has all this kind of maybe impacted your approach to pushing for this audit?
Yeah, I know that consultants will tell you when you're running for elected office to try to just appear strong no matter what. I will be really forthcoming. I never planned on running for elected office when I was a kid. This was sort of something that just happened, so to speak, where I got a job at the State House, learned about state government, and said, I want to give back, right? But it has gotten so bad at different times where I have seriously thought about not even running for re-election because of how bad it has gotten at the State House, where the bullying and retaliation is out of control towards my office, towards supporters of the audit, supporters of reforming our public records laws, and it's challenging. I'm a human being like anyone else, right? It's challenging to see the forest through the trees sometimes, right? But every time I come out and I engage with people, everybody I talk to, besides the legislators, right? Everybody else that I talk to says, keep it up, keep going. We want our audit. Where the hell is our audit? And they want public records reform, and they say they're voting for question 1. And I really feel a responsibility at this point to keep carrying the torch on this issue. I helped to start this, so I lit the match, and I'm carrying the torch now, and I want to see this through. So I am running for re-election, and I am also working to pass the ballot question into law that will subject the State House to the public records law. We are frequently ranked as the least transparent state legislature in the entire nation. That is complete BS. I don't know where this podcast is going, so, but it is baloney. And we should not be ranked as the least transparent state government in the entire nation. Massachusetts, we're better than that. Okay, we're better than that. We lead in so many different areas. We should be leading in transparency and accountability. And the public records laws, they don't give access to, as some legislators will tell you, to personal emails with residents or to personal text messages or anything of that nature. The public records laws gives access to things like taxpayer-funded purchases, state contracts that are executed in the millions of taxpayer dollars. Those are the types of records that the public records laws give regular everyday residents access to. There are privacy protections in place to protect, social security numbers or things of a personal nature, HIPAA information. So why anybody would be opposing this is really beyond, I think, most of us, unless there's something to hide, right? And none of us want to think that there's something to hide, but when you refuse to be audited, the sheriff is audited. We're getting ready to do another audit of the sheriff's departments. And we did an audit of the sheriff's departments last year. And it's just a matter of routine to conduct these audits. They help. They're not there to hurt. They're there to help, to identify areas of improvement. And you have all these different state entities willing to comply with the audits, taking the feedback, even if it's constructive criticism. It's not easy. And saying, hey, look, we all have areas for improvement, getting to work on those areas of improvement. When you're refusing to be audited, what are you hiding? That's what people want to know, right? Because this is not an FBI investigation. We do not have the authority to go in and confiscate laptops or cell phones. We're there. We send in auditors. They look at the books. They look at the records. They look at the financials, and they produce a report. And if you're scared of that and you don't want to see how you can do better, what is it that you're afraid of the auditors finding, right? And I think that that's what the people want to know. So I am asking people, please go to the ballot, vote yes on question 1 to bring on the sun. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, and what we're doing is we're trying to just shine a light, right? Shine some sunlight on some areas for improvements and make sure that you, the people, have access to the records you pay for, and that powerful politicians aren't able to just get away with breaking the law and acting basically like this is an authoritarian regime here in Massachusetts. The Speaker and the Senate President and the legislature should not get to tell 72% of the voters that their vote doesn't matter and that what they say goes and nothing else matters. That's dictatorship. That's authoritarianism. Let's be real. So we have a democratic government. And I know people will say constitutional republic. Okay, but it's a democratic form of government where democracy matters, right? And democracy counts. And we all want to preserve our democratic style of government where our votes actually matter. Who we vote for matters. What we vote for matters. You can't have elected officials going in there and completely ignoring the will of the voters and overturning the law every time they disagree. That's unconstitutional and anti-democratic. So we have a big fight on our hands in the weeks and months to come. And people should be aware of what's going on and be super vigilant. It's not about Democrat or Republican anymore. It's maybe that's the case at the federal level, but here in Massachusetts, at the state level, it's not about Democrat, Republican anymore. It's about people with power and everybody else. So we, the people, need to stick together and hold people in power to account when they're breaking the law.
Well, I think you kind of ran through our questions without us even asking them. So. Unless is there anything else you wanted to add, or you think that?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm a Merrimack Valley girl. We can talk. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, and we are here with Michael Fenton, who is running for the Governor's Council. How are you doing today, Mike?
Good. Happy to be here at Sheriff Cocchi's annual cookout. It is an event you cannot miss.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you stopping by, and we wanted to give you the chance first to just let our listeners know just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Mike Fenton. I am a lifelong Springfield and Hampden County resident. I am running for Governor's Council, which is 102 cities and towns, all of Western Massachusetts. It includes the Berkshires, Northampton, Amherst, but the busiest court system by far is the Hampden County court system. And I'm running against an incumbent who's currently from North Adams. I'm running on a platform of curing regional inequities, working closely with Sheriff Cocchi and DA Galoni, both of whom are supporting my campaign. And really, it's my combination of experience as an attorney and as a member of the City Council for the last 17 years, 5 of those as council president, that make me the most qualified person for this job. The Governor's Council, for those who don't know, it's an important board that confirms judges from all across the Commonwealth. And the current incumbent is not an attorney and not from Hampden County. So I bring that experience. I bring Hampden County local voice for Springfield and places like Chicopee, Holyoke, Westfield, where the majority of the justice-involved population interface with our court system. And as a lawyer and a person who's committed my public career to government service and doing that in the city of Springfield, I'm asking for voters to consider me on September 1st for a change.
Now, you mentioned that it's a broad area that you are representing, and I did think it interesting that our current representative on the Governor's Council is from the Berkshires. Being from Springfield, how do you make sure that you are connecting with those other areas like the Berkshires, where they maybe feel even a little bit like, well, we're Western Mass, but we're not that Western Mass, so to speak. I know you've gotten some support from like the Berkshire DA, but how do you make sure that you are making sure that people know that you are representing the district as a whole?
Yeah, you got to get out there and meet people. It's 102 cities and towns. I've crisscrossed this district during this campaign. This morning I was in Florence and in Northampton. Earlier I was in Greenfield. Just a couple of days ago, I was in Pittsfield at a Unico golf tournament with Mayor Marchetti. I've been really reaching out and trying to explain to people the importance of this position and how we need a fighting advocate on the Governor's Council so that our region isn't forgotten and doesn't continue to be forgotten. So we in Springfield know what that's like with respect to the eastern part of the state, and I know that the Berkshires and Hampshire and Franklin County also can identify with that. So you got to meet the voters, you got to show them that you're engaged and interested, and you care about what's going on in their court system. And I think, as you indicated, the support and endorsement that I've gotten from District Attorney Shagru, from the Clerk of Courts in Berkshire County, Lisa Denault-Viali, as well as from Sheriff Bowler, all of whom are Berkshire County elected officials and basically the elected officials who interface with the court system the most. Getting their endorsement, I think, really demonstrates that I've been committed to serving the entire district, including the Berkshires and these other areas. And it's also indicative of a problem that we're facing, because I think breaking from an incumbent from your home county and going with a challenger who's from a different county really demonstrates that there's a problem with regional inequities that needs to be addressed, and I'm the candidate who can resolve that.
Absolutely, and you just mentioned you're running as a challenger. So, what made you decide now was the right time to run for this position?
Well, timing is everything. I read a few months ago in the newspaper a pretty alarming story that highlighted the fact that all of Western Massachusetts has only 11 Superior Court judges. That's for all of the Berkshires, Hampshire, Franklin, and Hampden County, Springfield, Holyoke, Chicopee, Amherst, Northampton, Pittsfield, everywhere in between. 11 Superior Court judges. And last year, for a period of time, there were 5 vacancies all at once, leaving us with just 6 judges to service that entire area. These are really serious problems that need to be addressed, and as a governor's counselor, I would make sure to be proactive in making sure that type of situation doesn't happen. There was a huge outcry from our legal community and from members of the judiciary regarding that those vacancies, and I'm running on a platform to be proactive, identify vacancies before they occur, and fill them with people and qualified lawyers from the communities that they'll be presiding over.
Now, this position is a little bit unique compared to other elected positions. When you're a city councilor and you tell people you're running for city council, people have a pretty good idea of what a city councilor does. How much of what you are doing with your campaign is educating people on the governor's council, what its role is, and why it's important? Because not everybody, has a relationship with the courts, so they may not necessarily think this is all that impactful to them. So how much of your campaigning is revolving around education for the public?
Yeah, I mean, on the city council, like you said, Chris, people know what the position is. They know to call you if their trash doesn't get picked up, if they've got a noise complaint, their neighbor's grass is too high, there's a pothole. These are quality of life issues, and my constituents have my cell phone number. They see me at 7-Eleven, at Stop and Shop, at a basketball game, at a soccer game. So they know me, and they know what the role of city council is. Governor's Council is a much bigger geographic area, 102 cities and towns, so it's really hard to get out there and spread the message. That's why you got to rely on third-party validators and people with much larger constituencies like Sheriff Cocchi, DA Gallooni, Sheriff Bowler, DA Shagru, and many others to get the message out there about what this position does and how important it is to our region. So I do spend a lot of time educating voters, not just on who I am and why I think I'm qualified and what I would do in this office to make a difference for our community, but also about what the position is in the first place. I mentioned that this position is responsible for confirming members of the judiciary. That's all the way to our highest courts, the Supreme Judicial Court, making decisions on important things like health care, bodily autonomy, social issues, economic issues that impact policy across the state, all the way to our smaller courts, district, superior, juvenile, probate. All these courts have judges that are confirmed by the Governor's Council. And in addition, there's also other boards and commissions, including the Parole Board, the Industrial Accident Board, the Appellate Tax Board. These are boards that require regional representation. And currently, Western Massachusetts, all of Western Massachusetts, does not have a single representative on the Parole Board, the Supreme Judicial Court, or the Appellate Tax Board. And I think that's a problem with advocacy, and I'm running to be an advocate to change that.
One final question that I had. Are you planning on continuing on the city council if you get elected to this position?
Well, the terms aren't coterminous. So in other words, I still have another year left on my city council term. I fully intend on serving that term out. The incumbent currently serves as a member of her local elected and compensated school committee and has managed to do both of those roles during the 4 years that she's been on the Governor's Council. I'm not sure that I'll be able to juggle that as well. So I've got 1 year to finish my term and then decide and take a look at whether or not it makes sense to continue both positions. But others have and currently are, including the existing incumbent. And I love my community. I love Springfield. I love Western Mass. And whatever I can reasonably contribute without shortchanging any of my responsibilities is exactly what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
All right, and we're here with Elizabeth Dionne, who is running for treasurer. She's the Republican candidate for treasurer. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here on this actually really beautiful day. We really lucked out.
Absolutely. Now, I guess first off, what prompted you to decide that this was the right time to run for this position?
It's a great story. There was her former campaign manager realized that there were so many problems in the office that he came and recruited. He asked the Mass GOP to find a candidate. So a Democrat asked the Mass GOP to find a challenger for her. And he's right, there are a lot of problems. But the reason that I decided to run, there are actually two really important reasons. The first is that I've got 4 adult children who cannot afford to live and raise their children here in Massachusetts, and neither can their friends or their classmates. We have an affordability crisis, and we are hemorrhaging our 25 to 35-year-olds. And if we do not make a change fast, I fear that we'll reach the point of no return. We're 50th out of 50 for job creation. We're 50th out of 50 for economic development. But we're second in the nation for cost of living. We're 4th in the nation for property taxes. That's a recipe for disaster. And Massachusetts is hungry for a Charlie Baker-style Republican who will come back in and enforce some common sense economic policies. That's the first reason. Second reason, I just spent 10 years as a local elected official in Belmont, Massachusetts. Loved it. Really, really enjoyed problem solving at the local level. Plan to run again. But I spent 10 years as a reformer. We reformed everything in Belmont. Our finance team, our budgeting processes, implemented long-term budgeting, worked collaboratively with all our constituent committees, changed our zoning to be more business-friendly and more friendly to commercial development. We have a AAA bond rating. None of it's enough. There are 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. They are all facing a fiscal tsunami right now. That is the reason that there are 70 override requests this year, a record number. And we already have the 4th highest property taxes in the nation. People cannot afford to pay anymore, and yet our frontline services are starving, whether it's fire, police, education, road and sidewalk repair, water infrastructure. The solution to this lies with the state. The state has a record-breaking budget this year. Every year, our revenues have gone up by record amounts. So the governor just signed a $64 billion budget. It's going to be $70 billion by the time she's done. And yet, local aid has gone up only 25%. It has not kept pace with inflation. The missing piece here is not property taxes. The missing piece is the state understanding that our frontline services need to be our top priority. And going through, you see the same headlines I do. Every week there's another story of fraud or theft or something going wrong. You cannot tell me that in a $70 billion budget, there's not $1.5 to $2 billion that could go back to cities and towns that would literally solve our financial problems. It's a really long answer, but I am really passionate about this because I care about my community. And if I want to help my community, I've got to help every community right now.
Now, one of the things that I think of when you're talking about the cost of living and everything, one of the things that seems to be going up every single year is education. Yes. We're seeing districts with, in their towns, having these override votes. Like, I don't know how many there were this year, but there was quite a few. Like, what would you do in your position, like, as a state treasurer to kind of help, like, figure out what to do with that?
So the treasurer's office is uniquely powerful. It's the 4th most powerful office in the state, and people have no idea who the treasurer is or what she does, which is wrong, and it needs to change. We need to be out educating people about the treasurer's office. The treasurer controls about 20% of the state budget and hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. The treasurer has a unique voice to play in local aid. So you asked a different question, which is cost increases. But I need to tell you how the treasurer can have a role here. So the treasurer runs the lottery, which is the single largest source of local aid. And that is why the treasurer can be a unique voice for local aid on Beacon Hill. The current treasurer has not. She's been completely silent. I will be. So my role in education would probably come from my experience as a select board member. We worked collaboratively with our school committee because I as a select board chair realized that we didn't have long-term budgeting. You can't make good decisions if you don't have long-term budgeting. So we created 3 to 5 year outlooks and realized that our education growth was unsustainable. That if our education costs kept rising, we were going to have to keep losing town employees and potentially shut our library, shut a fire department, which we didn't want to do. So we gave the schools a number, and they lived with it. It's the first time in Belmont history that it happened, where we gave them the number and they lived with it, as opposed to saying, find this, and we would scramble to find. Why that matters, we also did a deep data dive, and our teachers, and I don't begrudge teachers their pay, but teachers are doing a lot better than our other public service unions. It was killing me to hold our DPW workers or our firefighters or our police to certain limits that the teachers were just blowing through. Whether it was headcount or COLA adjustments or anything, our teachers were getting a much better deal than the rest of our public service unions, and that was inappropriate. And so we did a deep dive, and it turned out that Belmont teachers were being paid among the best in the state. And data is a powerful thing. I really believe in using data to solve problems. And once we let parents know, always before parents had said, you've got to settle the teacher contract, you've got to settle the teacher contract. But once we gave the parents that data and they realized our teachers were already among the best paid in the state, and again, I don't begrudge them that, but it couldn't continue. The teachers actually marched down Concord Avenue in Belmont with my face on a banner and my number underneath it saying, call Elizabeth Dionne to tell her to settle the contract. What I heard from parents were crickets. They understood what we were fighting for and why, that we were fighting for the whole community, not just education. Again, I would love to have more money to spend on education. I feel like class sizes in Belmont are very large. We have significant special education needs, which is near and dear to my heart. I'm a former special education attorney with an autistic adult son. The needs are real, but we couldn't keep robbing the town to support the schools. There had to be a better balance, and we did that. But I do think if the state would turn a couple $1 billion over to cities and towns, there would be more room to sustain town services and provide more educational options. So that's a very complicated answer, but I needed you to understand how the treasurer plays into that and how my experience plays into it.
Now, you mentioned the lottery as a major part of what the treasurer oversees, and from where you're sitting, now we have casino gambling and other legalized gambling in Massachusetts. Obviously, here in Western Massachusetts, we've got MGM Springfield. How has that impacted the effectiveness of the lottery and the ability to then dispense those monies to cities and towns?
It's actually had a significant effect, and we've seen that in declining lottery revenues. Part of the reason, though, is because the incumbent treasurer has gotten rid of a lot of people who are very good at lottery and advertising and brought in people who are not, based on friendship rather than professional qualifications. So there are problems with the staffing of the lottery. Probably the biggest issue right now has been sports betting in the prediction markets. That has really robbed people who play the lottery. Lottery is a tricky question because we know that disproportionately people who are low income play the lottery, so it ends up being regressive. However, the lottery used to be run by the mob. I would much rather have the state running it and not putting hits on people. If people want to play the lottery, I'd rather have a responsible way for them to do it than having a black market. So we've always got to be very careful. And in Western Massachusetts, you need to be particularly concerned because we have not revisited lottery allocations since the 90s. So disproportionately, Western Massachusetts is paying into lottery, but not getting its fair share out. This is also happening in northern and southern towns. So disproportionately, wealthy suburbs are getting more in lottery revenues than they put in. That needs to be equalized. So there's an equity issue with Western Massachusetts for sure. Another challenge that I'm hearing as I've traveled the state is, and I've heard young men, parents and young men, and I've got a 22-year-old son among my 4 children, or 24-year-olds to 24-year-old. I am concerned about sports betting. And we need, if we're going to run, for want of a better word, a vice through the state or authorize it through the state, we need to have better guardrails in place than there are right now. And part of the problem that we have with offering those guardrails and support is you've got the Gaming Commission, you've got the Attorney General, and you've got the Treasurer. And they don't care. There's not an affirmative effort here. Problem gambling is the leading cause of suicide among any addiction. We really need to be paying more attention to this. So I want a way for people who want to gamble or play the lottery to do so, but I also want to make sure that we're providing supports and guardrails for people for whom this is becoming a debilitating life problem. And the treasurer has a role to play that she's not playing right now.
I know, kind of going off of that, one of the things with the guardrails, I believe, I don't remember if it was the legislature, but I know there was an issue with certain betting sites like Kalshi and things like that coming in. Like, how does that play a role with the lottery and overseeing that?
So I think that's actually more under the Gaming Commission, not the lottery, but I think it's had an impact on lottery sales. And usually I'm a Republican, I'm a capitalist, I believe in a reasonably regulated fair market. My feelings change when you come to, again, what, for want of a better word, these vice options. I feel like the state has a role to play because the state cares about its citizens in a way that private enterprise does not. So I'd actually like to see if there is a role in the state for these various sites or markets. Could parts of it be brought under the lottery? And again, don't want to kill private markets, but I don't see them having their customers' best interests at heart right now in a way that the state can and should.
So obviously in Western Massachusetts, one of the things we're always very worried about is getting left behind. And you made mention of the lack of equitable distribution of funds like with the lottery.
Also the Mass School Building Authority. Also under the Treasurer's Office.
So how would you work to fill those inequities?
Well, the first thing I've already said, look at how lottery funds are distributed. Make sure that more local aid goes back to every city and town. Another area that's under the Treasurer's Office is the Mass School Building Authority. And we know from a study that was published last year that the MSBA is disproportionately sending funds to wealthy suburban districts Rural areas and gateway urban areas are not getting their fair share of that funding for school building. That could easily be done. The treasurer could fix this tomorrow if she cared enough to do so. So that is an area that I want to look at. I do love Western Massachusetts. We're not a Cape Cod family, we're a Berkshires family. And when I say Berkshires, every summer for literally the last 25 years, we've gone out to camp at October Mountain with a group of friends. We missed 2020, the COVID year is the only year that we've missed. And we'll usually go back a second or a third time. One of my happy places is Tanglewood overlooking the Stockbridge Bowl. This is a beautiful and important area of the state, and I do think there's a huge role for it to play in the state economy. The eastern part of the state's too crowded, it's too expensive. But people can't come out here because there aren't good transportation options. I absolutely support west to east rail. I think that would massively open economic development opportunities, and the treasurer is over the $120 billion in state debt that's already issued. So if we needed to issue bonding, the treasurer would have a role in that. And I think some of the debt the state's taken on is questionable. We have the second highest per capita debt load in the nation, which is yet another debt that our taxpayers are looking at. But infrastructure for transportation, that's a really good place to borrow and invest.
So I guess this is a state where you really have, for lack of a better term, a Democratic supermajority.
Oh, yeah.
As a Republican candidate, how would you work across the aisle, so to speak?
I have already done that for 10 years. If you look at my record in Belmont, potholes aren't red or blue, they're just potholes that need to be fixed. I am laser focused on common sense solutions that solve problems for everyday people. So I've already done it. Second, I was one of the 65% who are unenrolled in this state. Massachusetts is actually much closer to a purple state than people realize. Look at 7 of our last 10 governors have been very well regarded Republicans. And I'm going to claim Ed King as an honorary 8th because he defeated Michael Dukakis in a primary as a fiscal conservative. So there is an appetite in Massachusetts for a common sense, Charlie Baker style Republican who is laser focused on fiscal issues. We have done very well under Republican governors. Frankly, we've done very poorly over the last 3.5 years. As I said, 50th out of 50 for job growth, 50th out of 50 for economic growth. We, in 3.5 years, have thrown away our competitive advantages. We have got to get back to some kind of common sense governance. And that's what I represent, and it's what people are responding to with this campaign. So again, if you're a common sense, fiscally responsible Republican, there's absolutely a road to victory in this state.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Again, Elizabeth Dionne, wanting to be your taxpayers' treasurer.
All right, we're here with Representative Angelo Puppolo, who is running for re-election this year. Angelo, do you mind just telling the listeners a bit about yourself and how your campaign has gone so far this year?
Yeah, so Angelo Puppolo Jr., state representative from the 12th Hamden District. That's all of the town of Wilbraham, and then parts of the city of Springfield, part of East Long Meadow, and part of the town of Munson. I'm finishing up my 10th term. I've been there for 20 years. A part of the leadership team, currently the chair of the House Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs. The campaign's been going very good. We've been working very, very hard, not taking anything for granted. But I think, especially now, in this time that we're in, it's critically important that we continue to have strong, experienced leadership, someone that knows how to get things done, someone that can go to Boston and deliver. I just had the governor come out to Wilbraham at Rick's Place. Just one example, I've been able to deliver $775,000 in earmark funding to Rick's Place for all the good work that they do with grieving families. And the governor came out and wanted to see that. But that's just one example. And again, things like that just doesn't happen, right? We need to make sure that we continue to have somebody that's going to go not only to ask for money in Boston, but to continue to advocate for issues that are important to us, whether it's affordability, whether it's housing, whether it's we just signed, and the governor just signed that we had passed the PROTECT Act, to protect all of the residents of the Commonwealth, which is the strongest one in the country. We've done a lot with clean, renewable energy. We got a few other bills. There's an energy bill. There's an environmental bond bill. There's an economic development bill that's still in conference committee, so those should come out pretty soon, and those got some great policies in there that we need to implement. But a couple other things that I think were critically important that we recently passed was the Data Privacy Act, and some of the Cybersecurity Acts, the SHIELD Act, and then really the data privacy, the second component to that is making sure that people's whereabouts they're not broadcast and known, so you can have that shield for location-wise, which I think is critically important. So I think we made a lot of generational changes, and there's a lot more to do. But again, I think now more than ever, with all the uncertainty and the changes that are coming down from Washington, D.C., we need to make sure that we're positioned well and we have a leader that can go to Boston, that's respected by the delegation, respected by the House leadership. I am that person. I'm actually the dean of the delegation. We work very well together as a delegation out here, but I'm the longest serving member from Worcester all the way down to the New York border, all the way across to the New York border. And I think that, again, does it mean much? I think it does, because it allows the leadership team to know that this person is trustworthy, this person is someone that we can count on, and this person has his eyes and ears, not only for our district, my district, but for our entire region. So I enjoy it. I think things have been going very, very well. I enjoy my time as public service, but I certainly would be remiss without talking about constituent services, which I think has been a hallmark to my service and time in the legislature. I've got a district office that's right in the town of Wilbraham. Not all legislators have a district office, right? Everybody has an office at the State House, but it's totally optional if you have a district office. I've had one in the heart of my district in Wilbraham since day one, and that is there to serve constituents. I mean, we're there, my staff is there. We help with DOR issue, Department of Revenue, Registry of Motor Vehicle issues, housing issues, unemployment issues. We're working on a lot for, reforming health care. We're there, we take the calls, and we're, like I said, in the community, visible, and it's like having a town meeting every day of the week because we have a district office that's open.
One thing, Rep. Puppolo, that's kind of dominated a lot of conversations is the state audit. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how do you feel about the audit of the legislators?
No, I mean, that's a great question, and I think, we've done a couple steps in the legislature to try to address that. I'm in favor of an audit. I think we need to have a professional audit. I think that's critically important. We don't need a political audit. What we need to have is a professional to come in, examine the books, make sure that things are in order, which I don't think there's going to be any problems. But on the side of that, we've expanded transparency in the House. We've changed House rules. We've added committee votes that are on the website. I'm a committee chair. Any votes that my committee would take, we post on the website. Roll call votes are posted. The budget and the finances is already posted on the website, so that information is there. We actually do go through an audit, that's done, but it's apparently not to the liking of the auditor. But we've done to that, and that's on the web page as well. So, but long and short of it, I do support an audit, but I think it should be done professionally.
And then kind of going off of that, I know question 1 on the ballot this year is about making certain records public. Would you agree with that, or what is the kind of legislature doing? I know it's in conference committee that they're working on a solution to that. Is that something that would be covered by what's going on in the conference committee?
Yeah, I mean, we've made, like I said earlier, we made a lot of changes to the, available information and transparency on the webpage. So I post all my information. A lot of committee chairs do that. So, I mean, if it's mandated, it doesn't change my position one way or the other. I already do it, and I would continue to do that. So I think that's an important tool. The public should know where their legislator votes, not only on big bills, right, that when we press the red or green button on roll call votes, but I think on committee votes, there needs to be that kind of, not only transparency, but, accountability. And I think that, again, the legislation is attempting to do that. The question's attempting to do that as well. But I think we made, significant progress in that. But, obviously, if the public more needs to be done, there's not a problem with it. I have no problem making all that transparent. I already do.
Rep. Puppolo, you mentioned how long you've been a representative. I was wondering, has your approach to how you campaign or how you talk to your constituents, has that changed or evolved over the years that you've been in this position at all?
No, I mean, I still, I'm in my district office. Whenever I'm in the district, I try to be in a district office. I enjoy going out into the community, meeting people. I go to events. This is a great event. The Sheriff's Cookout every year. I don't miss it. Going back to Sheriff Ash's when he had the clam bake every year. These types of events are critically important, right? So I don't hide. You know where to find me. People know where to find me. I'm accessible. I'm available. And I still enjoy, again, the constituent services. I still enjoy helping people. And I still enjoy talking to people. So my approach hasn't changed. If anything, it's become I don't want to say easier, but it's become a little bit more familiar because you get to know so many people, right? So it's people that you've helped in the past and you continue to help, or that's people that you've done a visit on whether it's a birthday celebration, an anniversary celebration, or at a special event, and you're in the community working. So I would say it's become more familiar because you've become a familiar face over time if you're doing your job right, and I believe that I have been.
I know one of the things you recently took care of in your district was kind of pressuring the owners to clean up Sears, or the former Sears property near Springfield Crossing. I know the Vibra Hospital is also an issue. Like, how do you kind of bring those to more attention and get those taken care of?
So, great question. So a couple points. We saw the problems over at the old Sears building. Springfield Crossing right next to it has been a tremendous asset. That development is gone in a very, very positive way, and the people enjoy going there shopping, whether it's BJ's, whether it's Target, wherever they go, and the food options. But you still have that eyesore, right? Sears is still an eyesore, and I saw it was getting way out of control. There was a lot of overgrowth. You had issues relative to trash and debris. There was all kinds of graffiti on the building. There was holes in there. People were sleeping in there. They were breaking into the building. Needles, all kinds of just garbage around there. And, I saw it, public safety issue, quality of life issue. So we wrote the landlord a couple times. Didn't really get a very positive response, but we stayed on them tenaciously. I stayed on them. And they finally, they've got a crew out there now that's been out there. They've hired a property manager, someone locally. They've been doing a tremendous amount of cleanup. They shored up that building. They fixed the leaks in the roof. They cleaned up all the debris. They've cut down the overgrowth. They've removed graffiti. They've done a lot of work there. Now, having said that, more needs to be done, but they've taken some great first steps, and I'm going to continue to stay on them until that property is developed. I've also filed a piece of legislation. We may not have enough time to take it up this year, but I'm certainly going to refile it next year. It's dealing with these types of abandoned commercial pieces of property that my legislation says over 5 acres. I mean, the Sears property is over 20, but my legislation says any property that's abandoned, not utilized over a certain period of time and over that 5-acre lot, because we don't want small little businesses or households to be penalized, is subject to a quicker process to get that into either housing court action to take it, or even foreclosure options. So, what happens is when you have a big piece of property like that, obviously the owner can do what they want with it, but they can't make it an eyesore. They can't make it a quality of life issue. They can't make it a public safety issue to the neighborhood. And if they do, action needs to be done. So that legislation targets that to allow the cities and towns, mostly cities, because not a lot of towns are going to have that big piece of property around. But be that as it may, any community that has that situation can move if that legislation passes.
Any other questions?
I'm good on my end. Yeah.
All right, Representative Puppolo, I think that's what we have for you.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, I just want to thank you guys. You've been a great hometown newspaper. Certainly, obviously, we're doing digital and everything now, and great reporting, and the people kind of lose fact of the local sort of news. In terms of saying, okay, everything's national, right? It's so. I don't want to use the word easy, but it's so easy to see national coverages, right? Because it's in your face. But you guys are doing a tremendous job. Keep doing a great job and keep supporting, local media.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are here with Michael Lachenmeyer, who's running against Angelo Puppolo for the 12th Hamden District. So, Michael, just to get started, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what kind of got you to run?
Yeah, my name is Michael Lachenmeyer. I grew up in Wilbraham. I've always been interested in history and politics. And after Donald Trump got reelected, I really started thinking about what can I do to get more involved to push back against what's happening. And one of the big problems I think there are right now is it's not just the Republican Party, but also the Democratic Party. Why are we in a situation where we're running candidates that are losing to Donald Trump? Why aren't our policies more popular? Why isn't there a higher approval rating for the party? I think there's a lot of so-called do-nothing Democrats that are partly responsible for this situation. And so in February 2025, I went to go lobby Rep. Puppolo on single-payer universal health care on Beacon Hill. He wasn't there, but he had his staffers tell us he liked the idea but wasn't willing to go on the record supporting it. That frustrated me because I believe that as a politician, your job is to fight for the ideas you support, or if you don't believe in them, then tell your constituents why. And let's have an honest conversation instead of kind of just trying to tell me what I want to hear. And so I started looking into his record a bit more after that. I saw that he had voted 3 times against the millionaire's tax. He had voted to incarcerate trans people for up to 5 years for using bathrooms or locker rooms that align with their gender identity. At the time, his Facebook profile picture was a selfie he'd taken with the founder of Barstool Sports, who's a pro-Trump media guy, Dave Portnoy. And so I also looked a bit further back into the record, and I saw nobody had run against him since 2006 in the primary. So I figured that if I didn't run against him, nobody was likely to. And I decided that this would be how I could make a positive impact on the community and do something to push forward the values I believe in.
Yeah, Michael, I've seen you out a lot at events the past couple of years. What's kind of your approach been to campaigning over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I believe in getting out in the community and meeting people. My campaign has done a ton of canvassing. We've knocked more than 10,000 doors at this point, and we've mobilized an army of volunteers to help us. You know, my opponent's got a lot of money, but we have people, and that is how I plan to win this race.
And I guess what has kind of been, has there been any difficulty running against somebody who's been an incumbent for so long?
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of people will kind of just dismiss you out of hand because they look at his money and his time in office and say, oh, this is, you know, really uphill, and you're a fresh face to politics, you couldn't possibly do this. But I'll tell you, I have found out that Rep. Puppolo is definitely watching the things I'm saying and doing quite closely. He's tried to change his policies over the past year to come closer to the things I'm calling for. And now that, you know, I got lawn signs out all over the district and I got decent name ID, I think a lot of people are taking me seriously. So, you know, I can't complain. I enjoy doing this work. It's not always easy, but it's definitely something that needs to be done.
What are some like recurring issues that residents have brought up to you along your campaign trail that you want to focus on?
Yeah, I would say the number one issue people talk about is affordability. You know, whether it's young people who can't afford to buy a house or old people who are worried about keeping their houses because property taxes keep exploding. That is the number one issue I hear about from my constituents on a regular basis. But there's also issues like policing and local issues like the roads that I also hear a lot of concern about. But affordability, you know, I'd say affordability and corruption are really the two key planks of my campaign. I want to highlight 3 policies for affordability and 3 for corruption. I want to raise taxes on the wealthiest people in our state so that we have money to offset property taxes. There's property tax increases for homeowners and people who already can't afford to pay more. I also want to create a single-payer universal health care program for Massachusetts. Right now, health insurance costs are exploding across the state. It's one of the leading causes for tax overrides because it's as like a single line item, it's the biggest thing that's increasing year over year for the schools and municipalities. And I also want to make our utility companies publicly owned. Right now, Rep. Puppolo owns Stock and Eversource and Comcast. You know, we shouldn't have these for-profit corporate monopolies that are able to make donations to politicians and also have stocks for them to buy into. You know, it'll create this status quo of unaffordability that we're living through. And on corruption, I want to ban stock trading in the state legislature, to what I just said. I also want to see the audit of the legislature enacted that 72% of the voters voted for in 2024. And I want to ban representatives from becoming lobbyists for at least 5 years after they serve.
Now, speaking of the audit specifically, that's something that's kind of really gone back and forth between the auditor and obviously the legislature. Like, what would you do? Like, I know one of the things they're working on in conference committee right now is passing changes through on that audit and different like measures and stuff. Like, what would you?
Yeah, they're trying to set the parameters of what the audit can cover, and having that come out of the legislature rather than down through the ballot measure that they passed. I am for enacting the will of voters as written in that ballot measure. I don't think the legislature should get to set the parameters. You know, I think it's a government legitimacy issue. If they don't give people the audit they ask for, then they're going to lose even more trust and faith in government. And already people are about as cynical about government as it gets. You know, they see all politicians as the same, both parties as the same in some cases. You know, we need to confront that head on by leading with transparency and by leading with the democratic values that our party accuses the Republicans and the Donald Trump administration of lacking. So as somebody looking to get elected to the legislature, I know that representatives who stand tall on this issue face potential consequences. House leadership will cut your district off from aid potentially. They'll make you sit in an office in the basement. They'll make sure that your amendments don't get into bills or that you aren't consulted on issues pertaining to your district. That is, an autocratic system I'm talking about, not a democratic one. The legislature needs to be remade in the image of democracy, and we need to have representatives elected to the legislature who are willing to stand against the people who want to run it in that tight-fisted manner. The way I plan to overcome that myself is I want to hire a grant writer to work for my office if I'm elected, so that I have the ability to bring money into my district while still having the independence to stand up for values like democracy that I think must be upheld.
One other question I had, Michael, was, a theme that we've noticed a lot covering our communities is we've seen a lot of override votes, and we're seeing a lot of school programs on the chopping block, and I feel like a lot of people are having discussions about how the funding formula at the state level could be changed. I was wondering if you had any ideas on that.
Yeah, as somebody who has worked in public education, I have seen how having a model for education funding that's tied to property taxes just totally bakes inequities into the system and causes a crisis where you have, it causes a lot of popular dissatisfaction because you got people who their kid maybe graduated 20 years ago still paying into the system, and they get mad about that. I believe that we should be raising taxes on the wealthiest people in the state and on the wealthiest corporations so that we can fund the schools without asking for higher property taxes, and so that we can create a better baseline that's more equitable for people all across the Commonwealth, whether or not they live in urban, rural, or suburban communities.
All right, Michael, I think that's all the questions we have. Is there anything else you want to add about you and your campaign?
Just thank you very much for this time. I'm proud to share that I was endorsed by the Massachusetts Teacher Association today, as well as UAW Region 9A. I am very proud to be a fighter for the working class, and I hope to earn your vote, listeners, on September 1st. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, and we are here with Nichole Coakley, who's running for the 11th Hampton District State Representative. Nichole, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I was wondering if you wanted to just kind of introduce yourself to the listeners, tell yourself a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I am Nichole Coakley. I was born here in the city of Springfield, but raised in Charleston, South Carolina. I came back here in '99 because I wanted to keep my promise to my mom to come back here to go to college. So I went to college here. I did my associates in law enforcement, my bachelor's in human service, my master's in psychology and counseling, and next week I will be doing my oral defense, and I will have my doctorate in business administration with a concentration in organizational leadership, and my dissertation is on something I could relate to. It is on the effects of work-life balance on women of color in political leadership. I am a mother of 5. I'm a mental health clinician as well. I'm a little bit of everything, honey. I made sure I tapped in because I wanted to learn more and I wanted to know how I can help my community. And the only way was making sure that I had firsthand experience within things. So I made sure I did that. Outside of that, I'm also a medical assistant and I am also a cosmetologist.
Now, you are going up against a pretty entrenched incumbent in this race.
Nobody's scared of him.
What's that?
Ain't nobody scared of him.
Well, what prompted you to decide that this was the right time for you to run for this position?
Because it's time for change. It is time for change. As you look across the U.S., those incumbents that have been there for years are being knocked out. And that tells us that our communities are waking up and they're realizing that the same old good old boy club is not doing what our families need. So it's time for them to go. So Nichole Coakley is here, and I am that change that we need here in the city of Springfield.
Yeah. And Nichole, throughout your campaigning, what have been some of the issues that residents have raised to you that you want to focus on?
Affordable housing. Oh my God, they are stressing. So many of them are worried about losing their homes, not being able to pay their mortgage because they're trying to figure out, am I going to pay my mortgage or am I going to put food on my table or how am I going to do this? Single mothers like myself, how am I going to pay child care and still put food on my table when I'm working a 9 to 5, going to school, but my 9 to 5 is not meeting the financial things that I needed to meet because everything has risen. When I went from an apartment that I moved into where I started out at $950, went to $1,500, and on August 1st it's $2,200 for the same apartment that I've been living in for over 10 years. It's an issue. But do you blame the landlords? No, because things are increasing for them too. So how do we work with homeowners and home buyers to help our community continue to rise? We have to figure that out. So a lot of people are worried about affordable housing, the economic stability here when it comes to workforce development, giving things for our youth to do, because a lot of times we're always ready to point the fingers and say, you're a bad kid. Stop labeling these children, because we're not giving them the opportunities and the resources that they need. A lot of people will tell them, go over here. Don't tell them to go there. Grab their hand and walk them over there, because a lot of them need guidance. We have to make sure that we are not too busy that we can't support our youth, because they are the next generation that's coming up. So when we're gone, it's going to be on them. So we got to make sure that us as mentors are doing what's needed to make sure that our youth are being met with with all the necessities they need to be successful.
Now, I don't think that there's any secret that there's inequity in terms of the amount of funding we get out here in Western Massachusetts versus Eastern Massachusetts. How would you work as a voice for the people in your district and part of the Western Massachusetts delegation to ensure that we're getting our fair share?
I'm not afraid to advocate. As you can see, if I was able to put my name in the hat to run against an incumbent that's been here well over 20 years, I'm not afraid to advocate for the need of my community. And a lot of times that doesn't happen because people's hands are tied. My hands is not tied. When I tell you Nichole Coakley worked her way to the top, from the bottom to the top, I don't owe nobody anything but God. Yeah, that's who helped me get here. So when I get there, I'm bringing my whole community with me, because only the community members know the needs that we need. So being able to hear from them, invite them to the tables, invite them to meetings, and invite them to be a part of the conversations and the policy making is the only way that we will have change within our city of Springfield. That's the only way we'll know what needs we need to bring to our community. So right now, we don't get no funding here in the city of Springfield, especially in the 11th Hampton District. If you look at the Mason Square area, it's going downhill. When we use Mason Square just to put individual photos up on the side of a building that's not even up and running, that's an issue. This is not something for a photo op or something that we just want to say we did something. No, these are lives that matter. These are people that need help. We have real reality situations that we need to focus on. It's not a photo op for me. When I tell you Nichole Coakley has been doing the work without the title, trust me, when I get the title, I'm going to make sure that we're taken care of.
One thing you mentioned, Nichole, was the work and life balance and trying to improve that. What does that kind of look like for you if you were elected? Like, is there something tangible you're kind of looking at there?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, with work-life balance is how do you really navigate that? How do you get the support system that you need? How do you provide the resources needed? It's not easy for a woman to say I'm putting my name in a political hat. It's not easy because the woman, we carry the household. We really have to figure out, how do I pay child care? Who's going to watch my baby while I'm out here in the community, while I'm out here doing what I have to do as a candidate? So we have to provide those resources for our women and anybody else that wants to run. I myself, if you look up in the Boston Globe, Nichole Coakley's name is in there because I advocated on allowing us to use our campaign funds to pay for child care. That was something that was vital and important to me. So we have to figure all of that out.
Now, one thing that you mentioned a little bit of is educating our children and making sure that obviously that also starts with funding. It all comes back to funding, really. And how would you make sure that we are in Springfield? And also, it's a little bit different here because we have the urban centers like Springfield, but you're working with the delegation that maybe has rural interests as well. How do you balance all of that to make sure that we are all getting adequate funding for schools and for adequate opportunities for our students and those who are teaching them?
Again, I was an organizer for the Teen Summit. We have to hear from our students. They let us know the needs that they need. We can easily say this is what we're going to do, but a lot of times it's not what they feel they need. So we have to provide those resources again, but we also need to hear from our students. We need to hear from our children. So we have to make sure that we do that. I'm also the former chair of the Hampton County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. So being able to fight for legislative work and things that I believe in is not a problem and not an issue for me. And it all comes back to building rapport and building real sustainable relationships with individuals.
Right. Well, that's the questions that we have. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Awesome. Listen, Springfield, if you believe in me and you really want change in the city of Springfield and especially in the 11th Hampton District, don't forget to vote for Nichole Coakley because she is somebody that's about every word that she speaks. Nichole Coakley, September 1st.
All right, and we're here with City Councilor Victor Davila of Springfield. Councilor, how you doing?
Doing quite well. Good afternoon to you and to the audience. It's a wonderful day, great weather, and a great picnic today.
Awesome. Well, Councilor, before we get into stuff, I was wondering if you could just introduce yourself to the listeners out there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Victor Davila. I am the Springfield City Councilor for Ward 6, that is Forest Park here in the city of Springfield.
All right. And then, Victor, so I guess what are some of the things you're working on right now with the City Council that you want to talk to us about?
Sure. In the City Council, we just had a meeting last week about the courthouse, which is a big economic development project in the city of Springfield. That's currently in the courts right now. There's a lawsuit pending on that. And we are very anxious to see what the court is going to decide on that. And what we do know is that the courthouse has to stay in downtown Springfield. That's one of the things that we're looking at. Another thing is that I'm working with Councilor Joey Martin, illegal dumping. We had a meeting with the mayor about a week and a half or so ago, and we are looking to other ways to strengthen the illegal dumping enforcement. And I'm talking about the heavy items. I'm talking about the refrigerators, the stoves, because we do have people out there that are consistently illegally dumping throughout the city. And of course, we always have the issues with the property taxes. That's coming up in December. We're setting up the property tax rate, and we're going to look at that carefully. And it's a fine dance, it's a fine balance to do.
Is there anything, Councilor, that's always a discussion with residents, is their property taxes going up. Is there anything the city's looking at with that season approaching that could maybe help ease that burden for residents?
Yeah, so one of the things that I have done myself, Ryan, in the past, I have suggested the payments in lieu of taxes, the pilot program. Just to give you a quick breakdown or a summary, the nonprofits are able to contribute on a voluntary basis X amount of money, but it's an agreement. They don't have to pay anything if they don't want to. For example, Mercy pays $0. Base Day pays about $100,000 a year, which had expired recently. In the meantime, you who are home, you pay full value on your property tax. Now, nonprofits are valuable and they are our partners, but the city of Springfield needs money. Ryan, do you know that in any given year, when we start the budget, we start with a deficit of about $20 to $23 million? That is a lot of money. It's getting harder and harder to close that loophole. And so what I suggested is that we approach the nonprofits that has $5 million or more worth of property tax, and that we come into an agreement with them to make a payment because it's not working out.
Yeah.
It's not working out.
Councilor, following up on that, I do remember when I was covering Springfield last year that the subcommittee that was studying this, they released a report. I believe it was last year. There was like a press conference. Has there been any headway made on that report yet? Or has there been anything progress made from that report?
So we did also approve, the mayor did put forward a proposal of the targeted tax relief, which we did approve and the House did approve, which I have to say that I support it, and I think it's a good start, and it's going to provide tax relief to the elderly, to the blind, to the veterans, and but it's a start. The only thing that I am a little hesitant about is that it's completely voluntary. So you're going to get, as I understand it, when you get your property tax bill, you're going to get a checkbox. Do you want to donate to help relieve property tax to somebody else? And it creates a fund. Then it gets distributed if you qualify. It's a good thing. But I think with the pilot, it's a more concrete, straightforward approach that is going to help even more people throughout the entire city.
Oh, sorry. So one of the things I wanted to ask about, I know it's a little more of a sensitive topic, but earlier this year, obviously you had called for a no confidence vote in the city council president. Like, how difficult is it to come to that decision to do something like that, but then to also like move on and continue working from that?
It was extremely difficult for me. It's something I did not want to do. I feel like we were duped. I was extremely upset. And people have to have confidence in the government. We are not perfect. We make mistakes, but this was not a mistake. There was a pattern here. And the solicitor put out a report, and people started saying to us, like, there's no way you didn't know about this. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And I have worked way too hard to be where I am. And I take this job seriously. Call me crazy, Dennis, but we are the people's government. Like, people have a right to know. People have to be able to trust us. It was extremely difficult for me to do. I thought about it for 2 weeks, and I finally made my decision that it was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, my colleagues didn't see it that way. Oh, by the way, that investigation is still happening. It's still out there with the Ethics Commission, and we'll see what's going to happen. I have no ill feelings, though I think the sentiment is not shared back to me. I really don't care, to be honest with you, because I'm here for the people. And we'll see what ultimately what's going to be. I do think, however, that we need to continue to foster relationships and transparency. And, you know, I'm there to do a job. Somebody doesn't like me, well, I don't want to say whatever, but I try my best. And as long as I know that I'm doing my best for the people, and that I go home and I go to bed with a clear conscience, and that I try their best, I think that's what most people expect of me.
One other question I had, councilors. I know that there was a bit of a turnover on the city council last year. How has it been working with the newer councilors over the past several months?
It's going well. Like I said, Jerry Martin is the newest member, and I'm working with him on this illegal dumping issue. And you know, we are performing now, but we still got that cloud over us, collectively, in the city council. And you know, we're moving forward, and you know, we're also throwing the mayor's race, which is coming up next year. So things are a little jumpy in Springfield lately.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions we have for you, Counselor. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for doing this. This is a good picnic. And if I may, just to let the people that are listening, to let them know that we're trying hard. If you have any ideas, any thoughts that you want to share with me, or even to say good job, Victor, you can always email me at Councilor Victor Davila at gmail.com. Or you can call the City Council office at 413-787-6170. But anyways, thank you guys, and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you.
All right, we're here with Jay Latorre. Welcome. If you want to just first introduce yourself to our listeners who may not be familiar with yourself, now is a good time to fire away.
Thanks, everybody. Juan Latorre here. So happy to be at Sheriff Cocchi's picnic. I'm a lifelong resident of Springfield, and I'm here today because I'm happy to share that next year in 2027, for the fourth time, I'm going to be seeking an at-large seat on the Springfield City Council. As I said, I'm a lifelong resident. I'm the vice president of the 16 Acres Civic Association, and community service is in my blood. And so I'm excited to share that with all of you and to talk a little bit about my plans for Springfield.
As you were mentioning, Juan, you've been this year 4th time running. What have you kind of learned those first 3 times that are kind of helping you this time around?
You know, running for public office is fascinating. I think one of the first things I learned is that issues matter in an election, but just as importantly to the residents of Springfield is your ability to show up. And so over the last really 6 or 7 years that I've been seeking public office, I've had this incredible opportunity to show up time and time again in every single neighborhood of Springfield. And as you do that, you learn, you hone your skills and your message, because you learn that across all of our neighborhoods, the needs are different, the concerns are different, the opportunities are different. And it allows you to do 2 things. Number one, which is a great personal accomplishment, I can go anywhere in the city and know someone. And that's just really a great feeling. I feel so integrated into my community. But also, I feel I have a real command of the issues, not just talking about them, but plans to implement them.
Now, as a resident of Springfield, I live in the Outer Belt. I've certainly seen you around, and as you said, you go somewhere, you always meet somebody.
I'm glad we're neighbors.
When you're talking with people, obviously they're voicing their big issues. What are the big issues that you're hearing right now? It's not an election year, so you're just hearing from the people. And what are you hearing people reflecting as their biggest concerns or their biggest priorities right now?
Yeah, right now I think it comes down to three major issues. Two of them are always there, and one of them is a very hot topic right now. The affordability of the city continues to be something that plagues Springfield. So whether you're talking about rents, whether you're talking about property taxes, fees, and then some things that the city has limited control over, utility rates, groceries, gas, things like that. It's on everyone's mind all the time. Everyone is trying to do their best to stretch a buck, and that really, influences the way I approach, my commitment to public service. The other one that's always there is public safety. I was just listening to a city council subcommittee meeting that took place last week, and I saw a really fantastic stat that over the last 4 years, the amount of gun violence in the city is down really dramatically, like 50% over 4 years. And I think you can attribute that to a lot of things, but the new firearms investigation unit clearly has had a positive impact. And as well, the consent decree, which has produced a better and more effective and more transparent Springfield Police Department. But the reality is that for the average Springfield resident, it only takes one instance of being involved or near a crime to develop a perception that the city is not safe. And for those residents with economic means, they're going to take their money and run. And they're going to go to the suburbs. And we can't have that. And so we've got to continue to double down on what's working. And we've also got to be able to listen to new ideas. And then the third thing, which is the hottest topic right now, is the courthouse. You just had Attorney Michael Fenton lead a great meeting with all of the local developers to talk about, what their vision was for the project. And, I focused on it really intently from the beginning when DCAM first came to the city, because I honestly know that in Springfield, the large projects, the big capital investments are not done without government support. We've got the courthouse, we've got MGM, we've got Union Station, we've got CRC. They're all happening because someone at the state or federal level is supporting the project. And so we knew that this was going to be a huge economic impact. I'm thankful it's in Springfield. I'm thankful that it's somewhat in the downtown, but there's obviously a lot of questions, even from the very people that are going to be working in this courthouse, as to, is this the right location? Is it the right thing to do to lease over 40, 50, 60 years? And can this project deliver the economic impact that we're hoping and we need it to be?
Just the other thing I wanted to ask too, Juan, is you said this is your fourth time running. I'm sure you're very entrenched in what the council's doing on a weekly basis. What are your thoughts on kind of where the Springfield City Council is at this current moment?
Well, there's been no doubt that it's been a difficult year for the City Council. And, as a resident, but also as a lover of civics, you hope that as the council continues to go through this year, that they can get past the storming phase and get into the norming and performing phase. And I'm seeing some elements recently that there are a majority of councilors that are trying to put their differences aside and for the greater good of the city work together. But I don't have to tell you guys, there continues to be controversy. There continues to be disagreements that spill over in a very public way. And I think at a time where the city, the state, the country, there's all sorts of concerns about our institutions and whether or not they're still relevant. It's my expectation that these councilors show up in person and put their differences aside and work for the residents of Springfield. They've been given this incredible opportunity. I never take for granted how much it means to me that someone would cast a vote in my name. And so I hope they use it to the fullest and, like I said, focus on those issues that matter most.
Now, one of the things that you've been very vocal about lately is the Vibra Hospital, and that's been an ongoing issue. But I feel like sometimes that's a bit of like that's the symbol of problematic properties we have throughout the city. So what can the city council do to improve the situation we have with these properties like the Vibra Hospital?
Well, I think we just have to keep the pressure up. And I have a very simple, proposal and very simple view on it, right? If we're going to fine residents that are living here and paying taxes, $100 or $200 every time they don't pick up their leaves or every time their grass is an inch too long, then we ought to hold the large commercial property owners just as accountable. You just saw what Representative Puppolo is doing on the state level to hold the owners of the old Sears property on Boston Road, which is one of the gateways of Springfield, accountable. There's been some cleanup there, but also I think there needs to be more pressure placed upon them, as well as on Vibra, to go through the necessary paperwork to sell. If you're going to sit on these properties and leave them vacant, I think there's got to be consequences. So fining is one way. I think we can do that, and I think the city council is going to look at, increasing, some of those fines for properties that are really dilapidated. But I also think, they ought to really think about some additional penalties for undeveloped vacant properties, financial penalties that will really compel them to start to move. We can't have these derelict properties that are essentially a tax write-off for some business out of state. It has a tremendous negative impact on the community. So we got to keep pressure on that. And I've actually heard from some councilors that they have some additional proposals that they're looking to bring forward, and we'll take a close eye on it. But it's, I came out to basically advocate for tearing down Vibra Hospital because I think it's a death trap, honestly. And God forbid a young kid or a person who's sleeping in there or a firefighter loses their life, in a fire, right? I think there's been 6 or more fires since the building has closed, and the reality is there's so many better uses than a derelict property in the middle of our city.
All right. Well, thanks very much for the time, Juan.
All right, guys.
We are at the Sheriff's Picnic wrapping things up. This was my first experience doing this, Tyler. And it was, I had a fun time. It was a little hot.
Yeah.
I've been drinking Dr. Pepper all day.
Yeah.
And RC Cola. But it was a good time. Thought we had a lot of good interviews.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was a lot of good interviews. A lot of people stopped by who we are very grateful they took some time out of the day. This is one of the busier events I've seen. I think it was my 3rd year stopping by, and a lot of challengers, a lot of incumbents all coming by, and it was really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. And the music is still blasting right now. but no, it was good. We had a lot, like you said, a lot of good races, especially statewide ones. So
yes, exactly. That's why I think it was so busy this year. And I mean, listen, there's still a couple hours left in this event, and I mean, it is popular.
Yes, definitely. And it's not raining this year, too.
Yeah.
So I think that helped a lot. Our seat for our guests was in the sun this time around, unfortunately. Yeah. But, we were able to get it done. Everyone was very generous with their time and willing to talk about, I think, important issues, too. A lot of stuff happening at the state level right now, the audit, obviously school funding, affordability, housing. And I feel like a lot of the candidates we talked to addressed that. So it was good to get a lot of that info out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's always good to get a lot of the big issues out there that are many residents are thinking of, and a lot of the people running for positions did state a lot of the issues we had questions about. They were hearing from residents. I mean, obviously affordability is a huge thing everyone's struggling with every single day. Yeah. Instead of having to reach out and set up times, it's nice that everyone was here, and you can just flag them over, and they were down to have a little chat. So I really do enjoy coming to this event and seeing everybody every year.
Yeah, definitely. And you can catch all of our, all of our interviews. They're going to also be up on our website, thereminder.com, all the write-ups we do for this. And, of course, this will be on any platform that you have. So I think that's going to do it on our end, though, Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm burning up over here. So
Sounds good.
Yes. But that'll do it for us on our end, and we'll be back for another episode of So That Reminds Me next week.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.